Hello and welcome back to Aspire Technologies once again, and we are proceeding on with our challenge, and today we are covering an amazing topic: Python variables. What are they? And by the end of the tutorial we are going to create this fascinating guessing game so that you are able to see how much you can do even from the first day. Meaningful code, meaningful projects. You can leave your comments, leave your questions, subscribe to the channel, share, and hit the like button to boost the YouTube algorithm so that this video can be shared to people like you who want to get started with programming but they do not know how. Let's get into the tutorial. Hi and welcome back to Aspire Technologies, and hope you are enjoying the challenge so far. In the previous video, we have discussed on the installation of Python, installation of Visual Studio Code, and doing the configurations over here on the extensions. And we also later on discussed about the print function in Python, and we hinted that there are other inbuilt functions in Python programming, and we are going to talk about them in the upcoming tutorials. And we also hinted or highlighted with regards to how the browser works with the hypertext markup language called HTML. So right now we want to proceed from where we left, and we want to start a new topic on Python variables. And after that, we are going to create a very interesting and funny guessing game whereby you are able to try to play around and understand how code works and how coding can be fun. So without wasting much time, let's just rush in and begin to highlight on what variables are. So I want you to create a new file. Hope you know from the previous tutorial. You click here and you just write variables.py. You remember that .py means that it's a Python language extension. So basically, variables are just names which are used in Python programming to store data, to store information, to store specific values. They are used to store and to manipulate data in a program. When we say in a program, we mean every line of code that you write. For example, this print function hello world or hello and welcome to the coding challenge in itself is a program, because we can run it over here and we can see the output at the bottom over here in my terminal. So the only difference with variables is that they are also able to store and manipulate data which is found in a particular program. And the variables can be used to hold numbers, can be used to hold what you call strings, can be used to hold what you call dictionaries, lists, and that is to say, variables in Python are very, very important, and you cannot do away with them, because you can see that where you play with all the data types, where we play with almost all the main concepts of Python programming, you find variables over there. They can be changed and they can be used in multiple times, and they can make, and we can make them useful for running complex operations. So now we have got rules that you have to follow when you are creating variables. But before I explain the rules that are followed when creating variables, let me just give a hint of an example of a variable. For example, if I say name is equals to then I put in the strings and I say honest. Even if I did not explain to you what a string is, I will go ahead and explain what it is. But I think if you followed the previous video, you are able to realize what a string is. So this one in itself is a variable. So it is storing information. That is to say, this name is a variable which is storing this name. Or I can say, especially when you are to think about a woman, they decorate their kitchens very well. When you get into the kitchen, you find different containers labeled differently. Another one over here is labeled rice. So we can say first container. So I can say first underscore container, but there is already a problem. But let me go ahead and do that because it's a mistake that I'm making deliberately. Then I say sugar. Okay, this first container is called sugar, but I would like to go ahead and also say second container with full words, and I say container over here. And I say is equals to, this one is going to be milk. All right. And I can copy this one. I paste here, and this one I paste here. I can only change the first letter. This one can be third, and this one can be fourth. Okay. If I make spelling mistakes, you should not worry too much. And this one I can say rice, and this one I can say it contains spices. Okay. So these are variables, but I have already made a mistake. before I explain the mistake, let me explain what is happening over here, over there. As I have given an example of a container, so you should just contain in your mind or bear in your mind that a variable is nothing but simply a container that stores information. However, this one is a container like whenever you create a variable, your computer takes a particular piece of memory and stores the word milk and stores the word rice and spices and sugar. So this is what happens. So these are pieces of memories, pieces of storages that are allocated in your computer or allocated in a program by Python to store these pieces of information so that later on, when you want to call out a variable, it is able to remember it and it is able to call it out. Guess you. I hope you are understanding this. So now we have got rules, the do's and the don'ts when you are creating variables. Number one, as you can see from this one, this first variable that I have, this second variable I have created here, first container, has got a red color and has got a red scribbling line under it, which is basically indicating or telling us something. So if you are not sure and you want to see what the error could be, you should only hover over and you're going to see what the error is. Here it is saying variables.st container is not clear. However, at the bottom it says syntax error, invalid syntax. If you are to click where it's saying more view problems, we don't have much information, but we have been already warned that there is a syntax error. If you can remember from the previous tutorial, I talked about syntax and I said the syntax simply refers to rules that should be abided by or that we should observe or obey when using a particular programming language. That is to say, in Python, when you are creating a variable, you are not encouraged or recommended to start your variable with a number. So here we have started a variable with a number. That is why we have a problem. Then I would like to go ahead and also do this. As I have done here, you can see that the word container here has a scribbling red line, which is also indicating that it is a syntax error, which is to tell us that we are not allowed in Python to have spaces in between words when creating variables. That is why I had to put an underscore. And over here, for our variable to work, we can either leave it as st container is equals to sugar, then it works as a variable. However, I would like to go ahead and explain something there, which brings us to another rule that we have to abide by. You should always make your variables meaningful. The reason for which we should make our variables meaningful is because as a coder or as a programmer, one day you are going to work on a big project with other programmers. You want them to be able to follow up your code, read your code and see what is happening. Or maybe we are working at a company and you have a team leader who always want to review your code to see how you were writing your code and if it is number one clean and if it doesn't have errors and so forth. So you need to make your variables meaningful. So if we simply say st container, it is not clear what you are trying to refer to. But if you simply say first container, it's now clear that this person is referring to the first container, second container, and so forth. Okay, then moving forward, the other rule is variables must be descriptive and easy to remember. I think this is what we have been doing over here. And we have to also make sure that your variable names don't contain any special characters or spaces. I want to touch on special characters because I have already talked about having spaces within our variables. So I can go ahead and say on this variable, I can create another variable. Maybe I can say 8 and I can say name is equals to, then I can say honest. There is a mistake, there is a problem here with this variable. The problem here is this. This special character at sign is not allowed. If I remove it, see what happens. But if I bring it back, it spoils the whole variable. That is to say, it is already telling you that it's a mess. Python doesn't understand what is going on here. So you should bear in mind that your variables must never include special characters. The other special characters can be this percentage sign, a pound sign, and there we go. We have another something to explain over there. So I can say, say for instance, if I'm to give you an example of how we can print a variable before I demonstrate what I'm about to demonstrate right now. To print a variable, you can simply come and bring, if you can still remember from the previous tutorial, the print function. So I can say print And I remember it has to be in brackets, and then I can take the variable and put it inside the print function. So I want to print what is in the variable, first variable, no, the first container variable. And if you can still remember, I can come here and click print, and you can see that we have sugar down here. Okay, so that is to say our variable, our first variable is being printed, and we are seeing that it is sugar. Then to clear your screen, you can just type is clear so that there is not a lot of things on your screen. And then I would like to do something. Then I'll go ahead and try to print out and see what will happen. We were talking about the hashtag. All right. Then I would like to come back and say print. Look at what happens. Name error, name first underscore container is not defined. Can you see what is happening? That is to say, when I put this hashtag sign or this pound sign at the beginning of the line, it tells something. It has a message that it is relaying to Python. So in other words, this is what we call comments. So if you want to comment a single line, you simply put a hashtag or a pound or that pound sign. So it simply tells Python that every line that has got a pound sign, that has got a hashtag, you must ignore it because I want it not to be executed. I don't want it to be executed. So if you want to comment multiple lines, say for instance, over here you can see I have got all these lines like from the first variable to the last variable to the fourth variable over here. If I want all these ones to be commented out, so if you do something like this, you can see that these lines are being commented out, and I can proceed and do the same at the bottom here. So that is to say all these lines that are over here are commented out and are being ignored by Python. So if I am to execute over here, none of these things comes out, and Python will just say these things are not defined. In other words, whenever you are going to see this error that says is not defined, you must understand that Python is trying to tell you that it doesn't recognize or it is not finding anything related to what you are trying to execute in your code. You don't have that program in your code. This is what it simply means. Okay, proceeding on, I hope you understand about the issue of special characters and how to comment. And let's proceed on to other laws that has to be observed when you are writing variables. And the other one is make sure that your variables are in lowercase. In Python, you are, let me comment out this. In Python, you are recommended to make sure that your variables are always in lowercase. As you can see, when I was writing my variables over here, I have been putting them in lowercases. So we have in JavaScript whereby a situation whereby you can do what they call camel casing, and I can say first name is equals to Peter over there, and I have to put it in a string for it to be read as a here. You see, then I can also go ahead and I say list, and I can do the camel casing of, and I say animals, and is equals to, and I make it a list. Even if we haven't covered the list, I will just highlight something over here so that we can demonstrate something just for demonstrating purposes. And I can say cow, in quotes, cow, and I can go ahead and say a dog, and I can go ahead in quotes, please. And I can go ahead and say what other animals are out there. Okay, cats. All right. So this one, what I have done just here, just ignore these ones. Just ignore these ones, Peter, and the list of cows over here. Just look at this naming convention is not actually recommended, although it works in Python, but it's not recommended. But because number one is not clean. Python emphasizes cleanliness of code. Your code must be clean and your code must be readable. And so this one is actually not recommended. So you should just remove all these things like and put underscores, symbol like that. You put underscores, symbol like this, and over here instead of first name like that, you put underscores, and that's it. You see, it's much better. Then the other thing that would like to go ahead and actually talk about is that Python has a list of keywords. So as I'm actually looking at that, let me open my browser and try to look out for the list of our keywords before I actually proceed. I can say list of Python keywords. So as the browser is opening, let me just look at look here. Yeah, I think here we're going to find out something. Yes, yeah. So before I explain about these keywords, let me just highlight that In Python programming, we have keywords. Keywords are words which are reserved to be used in Python programming. So these keywords, they become sensitive when you use them in situations like naming of variables and other things. So you must avoid using them. One of them can be the word if. Just that word is very important in Python. If. Then the other one is while. Then the other one is for. And the other one is even it itself is a decorative special character. And we have a lot of them. Fors with capital letter. Fors. Then true. And other things. And as I'm writing them, I believe you are noticing something. These keywords or these words are being highlighted differently from these letters. If I just write something like this, let me show you something. If I say, I want you to come and see me, you should notice something, that as I am writing what I'm writing, keywords are just popping up and actually are becoming outstanding and showing themselves. For example, the word "and" is totally different in color from the other letters, which is to say it's indicating to you that I am a keyword and I'm not supposed to be used in Python. This is the exact same thing with all these ones. They are just totally different from this sentence. This sentence is just clean and white, but these ones are highlighted, which is to say Python is already reading them that these are my friends. I know these guys. So you should avoid using them for variable naming. For example, if I'm to say false is equals to maybe, let me just put it a random thing. Can you see what is happening? And you can see if we syntax cannot assign to false. Can you hear? Cannot assign to false, which is a simple way of telling you that this letter or this word rather is a special character, is a keyword. You cannot use it for what you are trying to do. And Python is realizing that you are trying to create a variable, and because of this assignment operator, oh wow, I haven't said this, sorry. When you are naming variables, as you can see, this equal sign is called an assignment operator. And as you can know from the previous one, this one is a string. All right. So it is trying to tell you that you cannot assign a maybe to false, because false is a special keyword, and you cannot do that because it's embedded in a Python programming language. Going ahead, the other thing that you should avoid is don't use the same name for multiple variables. So for example, we can say first name is equals to Peter. Then we have another variable. We say first name is equals to dog. You should avoid that. Going ahead, you should also not use numbers to start your variables, but you can also include numbers inside your variable. For example, I can say year underscore of underscore COVID-19. Okay, I think this is interesting. I think this is an interesting way of giving a variable. Then I can go ahead. Sorry, what is happening? I can go ahead and say 2020. Can you see? It works. So you can put numbers inside your variables, but you should not start your variables with numbers. Another thing is you are also allowed to start your variables with underscore, and I can say underscore email is equals to honest@gmail.com. Gmail.com. This is a fictitious email. It's not my email anyway. And so, sorry, I see that there is an error here. It's coming simply because I had actually put down like that. So you can see this one is working. Going ahead, what else can we discuss about when it comes to variables? We also have to talk about numbers. What is the strange thing about variables and numbers? Okay, let me show you something that is quite interesting. And I would like to say number of animals. I just wanted to say number of cows, all right? Number of cows is equals to, we assign that to maybe 20. Then we can say a number of, I want to give it, I want to make it the same thing. Number of cows is equals to 20. Yes. Now, I would like to do something interesting here so that you are going to see what will happen. Okay, so I can simply say print number of cows. something like that. We are going to get the same results. So let me do this. Handy. Okay, let's see what will happen. Which one is going to be printed? Okay, let's say print. Sorry, let me clean my screen so that we'll be able to realize what exactly is the error of clear. What's happening? Okay, let me cue this terminal. Come back. Yes, it's working now. So can you see what is happening? Instead of taking this one, because when Python is executing code, it comes from the first line going down. But here, see something strange that has happened. Instead of giving us 20, 20 must come over here as the number of cows, but it's not 20 coming out. Look, if I keep printing, it keeps on giving us 20 instead of 20 in words. So let's go ahead. I want to demonstrate something that is happening here. We have got what we call data types. In data types, we also have what we call integers and strings and floats and booleans. You see, 20 in our data types, when you are talking about data types, 20 falls under integers. And when you are talking about data types, this 20, which is a number, falls under integers. And this 20 in a string falls under a string. And if I am to say 20.0, this point 20.0 is no longer an integer in data types. It's now referred to as a float. All right, we're going to discuss more about data types as we are going to proceed, but I am doing this for a reason, because I want you to understand variables. So the reason it is saying number of cows and printing 20, it seems as if Python is more familiar in recognizing the number in terms of this one rather than in a string, which is to say it's not reading this one quite well. But if I'm to delete this one and print out, you see we are going to have 20 in words. Let it print. Can you get it? We have 20 in words. It still prints. But when we have this one, it will conflict and does favors. So that is what happens with data types. So for you to be able to be even more sure, we can print out to see the type of this data type. So we can say, I can actually provoke another function which is called type, type, and it's also an inbuilt Python function. It is also an inbuilt Python function. So what I can do, I can take this print function and put it inside another function so that we are able to see the type of number of cows. So I can cut out the number of cows and say type, and if I hit my tab over here, it simply completes and gives me a bracket, and I can put number of cows inside that bracket. So this is what you do when you want to see a variable type. And I can say, go ahead and say print. And as I have said print over here, you can see that it is displaying something here. But I think I can go ahead and clear my screen for you to be able to see clearly, because I want it to be clear for you. Yeah, now you can see that it is saying class int, which is to say it's not taking out this one, it's ignoring it and saying class int. Okay, but I want to do something interesting. I want to say number of dogs instead of cows. Then I want to say print number of cows, and here I can say a comma and say number of dogs. Let's see what will happen. Then you're going to see. So in other words, we are printing two functions right away from one. We are printing out data types of two variables right away from one function or from one program, and I can go ahead and say what will happen. Oh, let me clean my screen and see what will happen. Does this work? I think this doesn't work. Okay. Type error. Type take one or three arguments. Okay, it's good that you have done this because it also helps us to learn. Look at what is happening here. Before we actually even look at what is happening here, you can actually even read more, and it's interesting about this error that is coming out. From here, you can see that it is saying line number 26. So Python is very good because whenever it is telling you about errors, it is also able to point out where the error is and direct you where you should focus on and correct. So, and it goes ahead and say print type number of cows, comma, number of dogs. Type error, type takes one argument or or it takes 1 or 3 arguments, which is to say that this function is not supposed to actually taking all these arguments, but we have put a number of arguments. So I would like to do something, something interesting here. I can say, I cut out this one, and I would like to say in the same, and I want to say comma, and I say type. And I can put this type function again, and I do this. Let's see what will happen. Let me clear my screen, and we are going to have an error or not. Now we don't have an error. So we are just going to separate with a comma and print all these data types to see what is happening. And right now you can see that you can see that the first one, this int is referring to number of cows, and it is saying it's a class of an integer. The reason it is referred to as a class of an integer, we're going to talk more about classes and objects when we're going to talk about object-oriented programming. But in the meantime, I don't want to go there. So let's just know that this is the data type of an integer, and this is the data type of a string. So it is telling you what data type is which. And proceeding on, I think I also may need to actually demonstrate something if there is any. If you have any questions, please put in the comment section below, and I hope you enjoy the tutorial so far. And I think we are moving together, and maybe I hope I'm managing to explain everything. And now we can proceed on to show you even more of a list of keywords in Python. You can see pause, await, else, import, pass, and so forth. And today, I definitely believe we're going to use the import keyword, and we're going to see how to use it in Python. So that said, this is all about Python variables and the rules that you have to follow. And in the next tutorial, we're going to talk even more about the data types and explain what you can do with them and manipulate. However, to end this tutorial, before I end it, I wish to give you a teaser.